Welcome to the session on protecting sensitive data and simplifying compliance. I'm Ankit Gupta. I work as a senior product manager on the data governance team at Snowflake. I'm joined here by Gaurav Kumar from the NatWest group, which is one of the largest banks in UK. So excited to him share his journey of how he's making the bank more compliant. As for the agenda, we'll dive into Snowflake Horizon and its current capabilities of sensitive data monitoring and protection. We'll explore a customer journey, demonstrating how compliance works in real-world scenarios. And after that, we'll look at exciting new features that we are releasing over the coming few months and how you can participate in those previews. And in the end, we'll wrap up by focusing on some of the best practices that you can implement at your organization. So before we dive into the details, I want to emphasize why this information is relevant to you and to our customers. There are many sessions already at Summit that focus on compliance and governance. And the reason is this. According to IBM's 2024 data breach report, the cost of each data breach actually reached a staggering $4.8 million. And the industry, in general, any industry can be impacted by it. But in particular, healthcare and finance has the highest impact and the biggest burden. Interestingly, 46% of the data breaches involve personal data like name, credit card, national identifiers, tax identifiers. So while the financial impact is staggering, even more worrying is the impact and the loss of customer trust. And that is a more significant thing to worry about. So with that as the background, let's take a look at Horizon Catalog for data governance and how that simplifies your data governance journey overall. So what is Horizon Catalog? Horizon Catalog makes data governance, security, and discovery possible from day one, allowing you to protect and govern your entire data estate with minimal setup. It helps manage all of the data, whether it's stored in Snowflake or outside, represented as external tables or Iceberg in Snowflake. Now, when it comes to governing data, there are three core pillars to the framework. First, it's the ability to know and discover where your data lives. What is sensitive versus what is not is a paramount first foundational step. Second, once you know where the data is, applying the necessary controls to protect the data. The goal should be to empower your analysts and users to be able to derive value from all of the data that they have. But applying the necessary protection controls is critical. And third is about continuously monitoring and auditing of access as well as protection controls that you have put in place to ensure these are effective and always up to date. Horizon Catalog is specifically designed to provide a robust framework for your data governance needs. It makes it easier for organizations to stay compliant with various regulations as well as internal policies. So now let's turn some of these concepts and capabilities into concrete actions for protecting sensitive data. One of the foundational capability that Horizon provides is automatic sensitive data classification. Auto classification intelligently scans your data to identify PII like name, social security numbers, credit card numbers, with 60 plus out-of-the-box classifiers. And this covers various geographies across the globe. You can also extend what data gets detected by writing your own custom classifiers. Once sensitive data has been identified, it tags the sensitive data automatically, essentially essential for applying the right protection controls later on. In essence, automatic classification takes the burden off your team by automating the discovery, classification, and protection of sensitive data, allowing you to focus on higher level governance and strategic initiatives. This capability went GA just a few months ago, and since then, many customers are leveraging it to detect sensitive data across their data landscape. So let's take a look at automatic sensitive data classification in a bit more detail. Here I'm showing a snippet of what we call as a classification profile. A classification profile is essentially a set of rules and parameters that tell the system what to identify and what to detect in sensitive data, what to scan for, and what tags to apply when sensitive data is found. Once the profile has been created, you can attach the same profile to thousands of schemas running auto-classification at scale. And that is it. All the schemas will now be actively monitored for any sensitive data that creeps in, including any new tables that get created. So once sensitive data has been detected, it's important to clearly label that information. This is where object tagging comes into play. It's a simple yet powerful feature that allows you to associate important metadata with any supported objects. It could be a column, a table, a schema, or even a database. For instance, you might tag a column as PII or confidential to denote its sensitivity. It makes it easier then later on to use these tags for a way to report on where sensitive data is located across your data landscape. Now let's see how you can protect the sensitive data once it's already been identified. And this is where masking policy comes into play. A masking policy enables you to dynamically control which columns are masked versus unmasked when the users query this data based on the user's roles as well as the attributes of the data. Now, what makes it extremely powerful is that masking policy can be linked to a tag, and then tag can be applied across all the columns. Automatic sensitive data classification applies these tags and masking policy as soon as the data gets detected. So this ensures your sensitive data is as soon as it is detected, it gets protected from point zero. Now, another aspect of ensuring data protection is row access policy. So row access policy lets you control which rows are returned to the caller based on the role and the attributes of the data and the users. It simplifies data management as well as reduces the proliferation of views and tables across your data estate. For instance, imagine a sales table where data is stored for both Europe and North America. With row access policy, users from Europe sales team would only see European data, versus North America sales team would only see North America data. You can craft your policy to filter the rows on the same table. It's a great way to ensure only the right roles and the users have access to the relevant data that are authorized to view. Now let's talk about particularly powerful feature that takes tagging as well as tag-based masking a step further. That's automatic tag propagation. Automatic tag propagation just went GA, and it enables the custom tags that are applied on the objects to be propagated to downstream objects whenever data gets projected via a view or data gets copied from one table to another. Let's look at a scenario depicted here. Say an admin creates a PII tag and sets that particular tag to propagate. Now the data owner assigns the tag on a source table T1. When the data engineer creates a table T2 using create table as select, the tag would automatically get propagated from the source table to the destination table T2. If the data gets projected via view V1, again, the tags would get propagated from the columns and the table to the view as well. Similarly, if the data gets copied from one table to another, in this example, T2 to T3, the tag would get propagated. This ensures your data remains protected no matter where it gets projected or copied over. In just the last few weeks since GA, customers have already applied tags on thousands and thousands of columns as well as tables via tag propagation. So far, we have covered different ways to detect and protect sensitive data via auto-classification, tagging, as well as column-based masking. It's crucial to understand who is accessing your sensitive data and how. And this is where access history comes in. Access history is an account usage view that provides a comprehensive audit trail that enables you to generate reports about who accessed sensitive data and when it was accessed. Another huge benefit of access history is that you can discover unused tables and columns. You can see which tables have never been accessed and treat them as stale data, reducing data clutter, as well as reduce potential risks that come with stale data. So now that we have seen the current capabilities of Snowflake Horizon for data governance, Let's hear from our guest, Gaurav Kumar from NatWest Group, who will share his real-world journey to staying compliant. Now, this is a great opportunity to see how these capabilities and features translate into practical application in a demanding as well as a highly regulated industry. Gaurav?
Thank you, Ankit. Really excited to be here, and thank you for coming out in numbers. Now, before we talk about the technical journey, I just wanted to talk about NatWest and the journey of NatWest in particular. NatWest origins date back to 1580s, making us one of the oldest banks in the UK. You might remember by the name of RBS, that is Royal Bank of Scotland, but we're primarily known by the name of NatWest today. We serve more than 19 million customers across our retail, commercial, and private banking businesses. We have around 60,000 colleagues supporting us worldwide. And on any given day, more than 30 million transactions run on a NatWest system. We have 3,000 data analysts, data engineers, and data scientists digitally transforming the bank. And within the DNA division, the division that I represent, we're supporting more than 45 business teams. Now, these are some impressive numbers, but the number that I'm interested in most is zero. As in zero trust for mishandling customer information. We're a heavily regulated industry. We have regulations like GDPR, which is General Data Protection Regulation Act, which is all about protecting our customer data. How it is processed and stored on our platforms. PCI-DSS is another, which is Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. It is all about how we store, process customer credit card, debit card information. And you can see some sort of parity between them. And that's not it. We've got multiple other regulations such as UK Consumer Duty, which is to ensure that we practice fairness in terms of the products that we provide to our customers. A little bit about myself. My name is Gaurav Kumar. Prior to 2018, I primarily come from a world of operating systems. I built a data center back in India. I also laid foundation of one of the cloud services in India. That's for one of the major telecom service providers called Jio. I joined the bank in 2018 as a data lake lead, led few migration programs, actually did them. All this while facing challenges from the 45 business teams I was just talking about. Today, 2025 actually, I am a Lakehouse principal engineer starting my journey, for almost 1 year now, building a Lakehouse strategy and facing some of the problems relating to data. Now, what are the core problems that you might witness in data? We've got three main that we kept bumping into. Starting off with data ownership. Main challenges here, overlapping data stewardship. Imagine a retail team and a markets team, both accessing customer data. Yet no clear controls on how the data is being accessed, leading to siloed data control. Second, data inventory. We land in data from multiple source systems onto our data analytics platforms. And sometimes we're not fully aware of what that data is, leading to partial data visibility. Almost like the dark side of the moon. Now, you might wonder, we've got multiple ways through which we can classify this information. Also, business glossaries can help, but gives you an idea that there are diverse ways through which you can tackle this challenge. So, we need a standardization. The third one, within our DNA division, we've got multiple analytics platforms, and data hits several layers of them. And sometimes this data isn't cataloged. Primarily, you must have seen data lakes dealing with this particular problem, leading to data swarms. And the third most important is regulatory adaptation. I mentioned we cater to multiple regulatory compliances. And we need to create bespoke solution for each one of them. We're often constrained by resources. We're a central hub team providing capabilities to our 45 different users, domain teams. And migration to cloud only increases the scrutiny. Now you can appreciate these challenges aren't just technical in nature, but cultural and organizational. I've been speaking to a few of you. You do come from big organizations as well, so you might be able to appreciate what I'm saying. So what we did is leveraged some of these data mesh principles. Let's do a quick refresher in a very NatWest specific way. First off, domain-driven. We're empowering our 45, now today I think we have close to 50 of them, 50 domain teams manage their own data validity and data accuracy within the concept of their own domains. Second, data as a product. Imagine Netflix, but for data. We're producing similar type of high quality data assets, which is accessed both internally as well as externally. Open banking is one example. Third, federated governance. And that's the core principle that we've actually taken and implemented on our platforms. This is to ensure that we have centralized governance policies which are tweakable through our domain teams, so not complete centralization. Fourth is a self-service data platform. Our platform team provides a capability to our domain teams to self-serve. Now, my solution is technical, and the details keep evolving, as you must have seen from Keynote as well. Everything's AI, right? But what I do want to give away is the 3 core pillars of the solution that we've created. Leading from what Ankit just spoke, just talking about them in a NatWest specific way, how we've implemented it. We've taken the core principles, starting with know your data, protect your data, and monitor your data. Know your data. It's like KYC, but for data nerds, particularly me. We start off with getting same amount of information for data as you would about your customers. And that's run through our automated data classification on the entire platform. Second, within protect your data, we then leverage our domain expertise to ensure that they're protecting sensitive information. Third, monitoring it. Now that we have found sensitive information, we leverage some of the metadata information from Snowflake and notifying our domain teams that we've found this information, protect it. And of course, if it is not protected, we then issue another alert. So that's all part of our monitoring journey. Let's look at the implementation architecture of how it all began. And I've got some bunch of animations going through it. At the bottom represents the responsibility of the hub team, which is white in color. The domain responsibilities are marked in blue. Beginning with know your data, what are we actually classifying? We're classifying a bunch of databases, schemas, and tables. At the granularity of it is a table. And we're not classifying all of our databases. We're potentially marking it for data that has sensitive information. We then run classification. The act of classification reveals something called as a system tag. That's a Snowflake-specific terminology. Now, what are these system tags? We primarily have 2 categories of system tags. One is a privacy category, another is a semantic category. Now, within the privacy category, an information can be an identifier or a quasi-identifier. It's a Snowflake terminology, but quasi-identifier, let's say, is a level 2 identifier. To give you an example, let's say if I say Ankit's age, 40, 45, or maybe young, but that doesn't really reveal any information about Ankit. But if I know Ankit's bank account number, I probably know him too well, right? Gives you the idea. That's PII information, a sensitive information. We then apply these tags onto the data, and reveal something we call as information repository. That's the information repository that we then publish to our domain teams to have a look at. Next, protect your data. Now that we know we've found information which is classified, we want to protect it. But before we can do that, we conduct a series of review. Now, review, unfortunately, cannot be automated, at least not until Mr. Altman announces AGI. You get the idea. We've got two categories within review. One is a false positive, that a PI information is not classified as PI, or a false negative, the reverse order. And we're focused on the ones wherein you're not classifying a PI information. But we cater to both scenarios. How do we do it? We provide our domains with the capability of applying domain tags. And that's a custom tag that we've created. But they're protected by our domain teams. Second option is we give them the hub tags. These are center tags. These are already protected by tag-based masking logic. And as Ankit mentioned, wherever your tag lives, your logic is being applied. So it's protected. So of course, you've got tag-based masking logic, or our domains also have the opportunity to directly implement masking policy at the table level itself. Once this is all done, we get the reviewed repository. That's the golden source of truth. Does the buck stop here, though? No. We've got a series of alerting which protects any leakage option. First, we notify when we run a classification process. Second, we detect if there is any sensitive information. And third, the most important one, if we find any data that's not protected and is sensitive in nature, we make sure our domains rectify it. And this is through our notification integration. Some of the features that Ankit later will talk about. Now, how is it all tied together? Ankit mentioned about classification profile. Now, here's a version of classification profile that we implemented. We've got a bunch of parameters here. First, classification validity, the duration for which the classification results are valid for. Now, you might wonder, but Gaurav, what if, being an analytics platform, you're ingesting new data, what happens then? We've got the second parameter called incremental scan. So we're detecting new data as that lands onto the platform within the classification validity. And that caters to any new table, any changes in table, like column being added, or a weighted average of data being added to the tables itself. And that's a frequency of roughly around 15 days. That's how it is all tied together. Now, I mentioned I'm a principal engineer building a lakehouse strategy. But I've been just talking about Snowflake tables. Snowflake external tables. It's not just the data that is living within Snowflake that we are classifying. It's also the data that is living in S3. But of course, external tables aren't as performant. And being on the lakehouse journey, we're also classifying our iceberg tables, all within the Horizon capabilities. Now let's revisit the benefits. What did we achieve? Circling back, data ownership. We've got clear responsibility, clear accountability of who owns the data, who's going to protect this information, and how is it all tied together. And we've got a functional collaboration with our domain teams and the central team, which is represented by me. We've got a torch on the dark side of the moon now through our data inventory. We've got comprehensive data mapping, metadata management, and data lineage tracking, thanks to Snowflake. The last one, the most important one, we've got bespoke solution for each of our compliance requirements because the framework that we build is configurable. It is parameterized, which then ensures that we have enhanced compliance assurance. I will now hand it over to Ankit to talk about what's next.
Cool. Thank you so much, Gaurav. Yeah. Thank you for sharing NatWest's journey and providing this glimpse into how a large financial institution is leveraging Snowflake Horizon today in the real world. Now, learning from customers like NatWest and many others, we are aiming to simplify this journey even more. And so let's look forward to what's next in the area of sensitive data monitoring and protection. These new capabilities are under development, and we will open up previews over the next couple of months. So really excited to share what we've been cooking in the kitchen. First, we are thrilled to introduce a rich set of data security-focused capabilities within Trust Center. Trust Center empowers customers to evaluate their Snowflake account's trust posture. And now we are making Trust Center your one-stop shop for all things related to security, from account all the way to your data. Let's dive into the more specifics about these upcoming features. So data security in Trust Center will have a simple yet intuitive way to set up data classification at scale across all your databases in the account. I showed you earlier how you can create a classification profile and link it to schemas, but it still requires you to continuously stay on top of as new schemas get added. With the new solution, you'll be able to set up classification at the DB or even the account level. This UI-based setup will make the process much more accessible and user-friendly, allowing you to set it up with just a few clicks. Next is Sensitive Data Insights dashboard. Think of this as an at-a-glance view where sensitive data lives, as well as it shows the data's protection status. This is your command center for understanding what your sensitive data landscape looks like. This dashboard will also provide you with the operational status of what you are monitoring and where the gaps are. So you won't need to dig into complex SQL queries to understand your total sensitive data landscape. Earlier, I spoke about leveraging access history to audit who has accessed sensitive data. We are simplifying how you can capture and share that information in a structured way for auditing as well as compliance. Sensitive data entitlement and audit reports will be provided out of the box that you can set up to run on a periodic basis. And they will answer pertinent questions like who has access to sensitive data or who accessed sensitive data, the two questions which most auditors and compliance people look for. This is vital for enforcing the principles of least privilege and ensuring that only authorized roles and users have been granted access. All of this will be part of data security in Trust Center. So apart from these cool new capabilities that we are building as part of data security, we are also making several improvements to the sensitive data classification feature itself. First, like I mentioned earlier, Snowflake already provides 60+ native categories covering most personal as well as payment-related categories out of the box across various geographies. We are now adding 100+ new classifiers for regional data focused on EU as well as India. These are critical for making sensitive data detection even more accurate as well as relevant to your needs. This is a significant expansion in our out-of-the-box classifiers that are pre-built. Second, with the expanded library, we also want to empower you to classify the data that you think is sensitive based on your compliance requirements. Every organization's regulatory landscape is unique. And so having the ability to tailor your choices is extremely important. With this ability, you'll be able to direct the system to pick and choose which classifiers to apply as part of the classification setup process. Now, you are not limited with a one-size-fits-all approach. You can select the classifiers that are most relevant for your geography. So currently, the automatic process can already classify any new table that gets created in the schemas that are being monitored. We are now adding new auto classification trigger that will also monitor any new columns that get added. Now, data landscape is usually dynamic. Data schemas keep changing. This feature will enable you to classify any existing or reclassify a pre-classified table as and when data schema changes. So all of good stuff that I just shared will land in preview over the next couple of months. So please reach out to your AEs and SEs to enroll in previews. Now let's take a step back and look at how some of these capabilities need to be put into practice to get the most value out of what Snowflake Horizon provides. We have organized these best practices into the familiar know, protect, and monitor data framework. So start by implementing automatic classification across your entire platform. The goal is that you don't have to wait for problems to arise. Proactively identify sensitive data, clearly label it, tag it, and this is the foundation for any effective data governance strategy. Ensure that your tagging aligns, like Gaurav mentioned, with your organization's established taxonomy. Consistency in tagging is key for accurate identification as well as application of policies and reports. For protect your data, implement a least privileged role-based access control model. Only grant necessary privileges and permissions to perform their roles. This minimizes the risk of unauthorized data access. Finally, utilize row access as well as masking policies to granularly control who sees what data within a table. Masking helps to obfuscate sensitive fields, whereas row access policy restrict access to entire records based on user context. Implement both wherever applicable. And this works in conjunction with RBAC. Last but not the least, don't just classify and protect. Actively monitor data access. Like I mentioned, set up scheduled reports to track who is accessing sensitive data. And this is vital for audit trails and compliance reporting. Like I mentioned earlier, data environments are dynamic, so make sure that you have mechanisms in place to monitor for any changes. This keeps your data security posture up to date. Now keep in mind, compliance isn't a one-time activity. It's an ongoing process. These best practices should be consistently applied as well as reviewed to ensure they are always effective and align with your organization's evolving needs.